Whoa. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Today I'm taking a look at the McFarlane Toys Digital B from BRZRKR by Boom Studios. Huge thanks to McFarlane Toys for making this video possible by sending them to me to review. Starting with the packaging, and this is really impressive. Most McFarlane figures either come in a window box or a plastic clamshell, but this one has a separate window flap, more like a NECA Ultimate. BRZRKR is a comic created by Keanu Reeves, and the artwork is really nice. We see a whole page worth of that on the back. You can definitely tell it's modeled off of Keanu. You can also see this is a McFarlane Digital, meaning you're not just getting a figure, you're also getting a digital token of that figure. While we're here though, this spine shows off the features of the figure, and then on this side we get the brutal blood-soaked logo. Down here is the UPC for those looking in-store, and then opening the flap we get more artwork. Honestly, this is really good. But more importantly, we get a little synopsis of the series, including a bio of the character. With this being new to me, I really appreciate that. I also really appreciate the amount of effort that McFarlane put into this. I think I can say with confidence that this is the nicest box McFarlane's ever made. For packaging, BRZRKR gets 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and this property is completely new to me, so I have no frame of reference whatsoever. All I have to go by is the artwork on the box, so I'm judging this figure based exclusively on its own merit and not any preconceived ideas of what it should be. With that out of the way, B is a 7-inch scale figure who stands at 7 1/8 inches, or about 18 1/4 centimeters. The figure is a 100% new sculpt and is absolutely loaded with lots of little details. One of the first things you're going to notice is his riot vest. All the straps and buckles are nicely sculpted, great fabric texture. The leather texture is also very lifelike, and not only the pouch is all dinged up, they've also been given a paint wash to bring the detail out. There are some strategic cuts to help with articulation. That said, this is a soft overlay piece, so I'm kind of curious. And yeah, if you pop off the arms and head, you can slide that vest off. There's some really great gruesome detail underneath. In fact, this right here looks like you can stick a blade in there, so I'm really excited to see what we have in store for playability. With the vest being removable, that means you could theoretically put it on other characters. Flipping him around even has more gore on his back. Looking at the arms, and there's some nice bandage wraps. Again, great texture, but also a wash to bring the texture out. More of that for the belt, and also the pants. Great wrinkling and bunching up by the boots, and those boots are pretty spiffy. Lastly, we have to talk about the head. I absolutely see Keanu Reeves in there, but I do have to remind myself that this is based off of a comic and not a movie. With that in mind, the fact that this isn't a photoreal likeness is fine. What we do have is still pretty good. For presentation, I'm giving B 5 points. Moving on to Poseability, and B follows the same basic articulation scheme we usually see in McFarlane figures. From the top, and his head is on a dumbbell joint, but Keanu does have his famously long hair, so we can't really look up. With that screaming head, and down isn't really happening either. We do get a bit of tilt though, and all the way around. Moving on down, and B can raise his arms about 90 degrees, and gets complete rotation at the shoulder. He also has one of those wibbly wobbly rotator cuffs that gives all sorts of extra range, along with bicep swivel, double jointed elbow with a great bend, and wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up or down, or side to side. Moving in the middle, and B has a dumbbell waist and also a diaphragm underneath his vest. He can arch back this far, which is very good. Here he is standing straight, but remember these slits? Thanks to those, he can hunch forward this far, which while not the best in the world is still a lot better than usual. What he does have is more than ample side to side, and of course twist. Below the belt, and B has the standard McFarlane hips. The strap for the holster is a separate piece and isn't attached to the leg. That way you don't get any interference with the kick. The legs can go back this far, by the way, or the split, which is pretty good. There is twist, but admittedly I would like to see a little bit more. By moving down, the double jointed knees have an incredible bend. He's also got toe articulation and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and I don't know enough about this comic to make a pivot joke, so pivot. For Poseability, I'm giving B 5 points. Moving on to Playability and strap in, this might be the most accessories I've ever seen from a McFarlane figure. First things first is a trading card. There is a bio on the back, but it's the same one from the box. That said, I do have one minor criticism. The cards came packed in a tray, which is great, but it did also bend them out of shape. You can especially see it with this one. Pretty much it's a scratch-off code, giving you a digital version of the figure that you can display in an online showroom. In usual McFarlane tradition, he has a figure stand, one with the logo stamped on, but of course here's where the real magic happens. In total, B comes with 8 different firearms. Each and every one of them was included in the various munitions packs, so if like me you missed out on them, this is a great way of snagging them. I'm not exactly a gun expert, but I know we got a shotgun here, lots of nice detail, including the wood grain. We also got one of these bad boys. I don't want to repeat myself by talking about how well detailed they are, but they're pretty well detailed. Obviously little things like some dry brushing would have brought the detail out, and if you wanted to, of course you could do that. At the very least though, they do have the painted details that they need, things like the wood. Others are plain, and that's completely fine. For me, the best part is that since DC Multiverse doesn't come with guns, these are totally compatible with them. So again, if you missed out on the munitions packs, this is a fantastic way of stocking up. B comes preloaded with a couple of trigger hands, allowing him to dual wield. Of course, once all the ammo finally runs out, B does have an alternate pair of fists. Those have the same texture and paint detail. He's also got this alternate grabbing hand. One thing McFarlane did that really goes beyond though is that B doesn't just have alternate hands, he actually has alternate gory arms. When you put it that way, I guess it means he technically has 5 alternate hands. Taking off that vest and all that gory detail really comes together. McFarlane has done a spectacular job. It really brings me back to their old days. In fact, you can complete the look with this alternate gory head. Is it weird that this feels more like Keanu Reeves to me? In fact, there's a second one that's even gorier. At this point, it's almost like having 2 figures in one. While I'm here, he also has this bloody knife, and just like I suspected, you can actually stab him with it. Not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. Switching back over to the regular head though, and he comes with this alternate faceplate. This is just a good all-around static expression. Again, it's a bit stylized because it's a comic book, but I definitely do see Keanu Reeves in there. Lastly, and my favorite accessory has got to be this severed arm. There isn't any articulation in there, but there is a nice bit of gruesomeness. As someone who's not read the comic, I have no idea why there's a severed arm. I just know it's a fun accessory, and to someone with a lot of horror figures, this is going to come in handy for figure photography. Even with so many incredible pack-ins, playability is more than just accessories. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. Starting with McFarlane, and it's only appropriate to kick things off with a couple of spawns. These are from the Batman 2 pack and Mortal Kombat 11. With this being Keanu Reeves though, and it's only fitting to bring out Constantine, but for a couple of Batman comparisons, and here's Nightfall, and the blue and gray version of Hush. That said, for the Batman who seems most appropriate to this character, and here we have the Grim Knight. Sizing him up with some other toy lines though, and for Hasbro, here we have Egon from Ghostbusters. Clearly this is way too small. And then continuing in size order is Indiana Jones, the Mandalorian from the Star Wars Black Series, Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe Classified, the SPD Green Ranger from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection, the Marvel Legends Vulcan, and the starting lineup collection Joel Embiid, which is technically the same height as B, but of course he should be much taller. Switching over to Mattel though, and here's the Jurassic World Amber Collection, Owen Grady, Randy Orton, which feels like it's pretty close to scaling well, and He-Man from the Masters of the Universe Revelation Masterverse series. For a Mafex, here's Night Crusader Batman, but for a DC Essentials, and here's Nightfall Batman. Switching over to NECA, and here's comic legend Flash Gordon, and fellow unkillable murder machine Jason Voorhees. Lastly, and for fellow 7-inch scale series Marvel Select, and here we have Blade, the Vampire Hunter. I think these look really good together, this being a perfect segue to our tried and true relative scale comparison of Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. That being said, I do want to try out just a couple of head swaps. First up is the DC Multiverse White Knight Joker. Obviously you could do this. I think the body might be a bit too scrawny for Keanu, but the skin tones match. Mainly I was curious about the other way around. Obviously this body's a bit beefier than the usual Joker, but I do think there's a lot of fun potential here, especially when you remember the alternate unpainted head. Next, and for something in a similar vein, I'm very curious about Commissioner Gordon from Batman Endgame. Again, not so much this way, though Keanu Reeves did play Batman in that Super Pets movie. Mainly, I've been curious about this. Once this figure came out, a lot of people swapped heads with the White Knight Joker, but the proportions and details here are a much better fit. Honestly, this looks even better than expected. As long as we're talking about Jim Gordon, here's the recently released Year 1 version. I like this a lot because it gives us a traditional comic-style Gordon in riot gear. The skin tones don't match, so you're gonna need to do a bit of repainting, but this is just a really solid option for the character. On the flip side, I really like this. This is a great combo for anyone who wants to turn Keanu Reeves into Constantine, or maybe even John Wick. All you need is a bit of repainting. Finally, and with that same idea in mind, here he is with the Question. Again, this isn't a perfect likeness to John Wick fixed suit, but again, with a bit of black paint, I really think this would be a fun custom option. Thanks to swappable parts, B is incredibly versatile, and thanks to his heavy artillery, he's ready for action. It also really benefits your DC Multiverse collection. For playability, I'm giving B 6 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. B is a Walmart exclusive and retails for $49.99. Having just reviewed the Marvel Legends Maximum Spider-Man for the same price, I have thoughts. Similar to B, there's obviously lots of new tooling and articulation, but while Spider-Man had lots of accessories, B has a lot more value. You've got multiple expressions, there's also the alternate gore parts making him a literal new figure altogether, as well as 8 guns that you can use with your other McFarlane figures. For me, there is just way more value here. Long story short, the figure puts a smile on my face. Still, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the price tag is a bit steep, and the fact that it's a Walmart exclusive makes it a bit harder to get than I wish it was. For price, I'm giving B 4 points, but he still averages out to a perfect total of 5 out of 5. Once again, huge thanks to McFarlane Toys for making this video possible. For more videos, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.